All right, we now welcome on two-time Super Bowl champ Ricky Proehl. Ricky, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So let's start this off. Tell us about the Power of Play Foundation.
It's an organization, obviously nonprofit. My wife and I started back in '95, and it's help families in need, special needs children, just educate our community on the families and the children that need our help. We've just from kids that just giving them a platform and an opportunity to have equal opportunity, I should say. And it's grown. We've done fundraisers from golf tournaments to Blue Jeans and Bourbon, an event that we have here at the park. And but it's dated back to it's been, like I said, since 1995 that we've done golf tournaments. We do Santa's Helpers, where we provide Christmas for families in need, and we've been able to provide 300 families a year for the last 5 years, and it's life changing. And then, like I said, it's just educating the Guilford County and the surrounding communities on there's so many people out there that need our help, and we've been able to build a inclusive playground that's for children, wheelchair accessible. Back when I grew up, the special needs or children with disabilities wasn't in public schools, and now they are. And I was kind of dumbfounded. I just didn't realize the need for, when it's recess time and we all go out and play. We don't think about the children in wheelchairs, the children that can't go out on the playground and play. And so we were able to build an inclusive playground here and there's so many families open to the public and here in Guilford County. And we're just trying to build more throughout the state of North Carolina.
So where can people donate and find this information?
They can go to my website, prolificpark.com, and look for the foundation tab. And Natasha, who is my director, can answer any questions as well as I can.
Awesome. Well, make sure to go donate. And let's start this off. Let's get into some football. So you get drafted. So you're from New York. You end up at Wake Forest. How did that happen?
Well, I was born in New York City. I was born in the Bronx. I grew up in New Jersey. And I was a big Walter Payton fan. So I was a running back most of my Pop Warner middle school, high school days. And my junior year, I was a running back and a receiver got hurt. I filled in at receiver, had a big game, went back to running back the rest of the junior year, and then senior year, they moved me to receiver. And I blew up, I was all-state first team, but I was a little undersized. It's probably 5'10", 170 pounds, and not a whole lot of people knew about me. And it was, I think, Thanksgiving of my senior year is when Wake Forest got wind of a receiver up in Hillsborough, New Jersey, and liked what they saw, and eventually offered me in February my senior year, 1986. And that's, I had no idea where Wake Forest was, didn't know anything about it, but I thought I was going to end up in a Division III school, Shippensburg or East Stroudsburg, some of the smaller schools. Rutgers, I was 15 minutes from Rutgers. They didn't even ask me to walk on. But, I had 2 offers, Wake and West Virginia, and I just came down south, fell in love with the South and the plans that Wake Forest had for me. And the rest is history.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a good story, because most people don't really know about Wake Forest, if they're from up there or something like that. But personally, I came to know you with your time with the Panthers as a player and as a coach. So I was just curious, you've been to a Super Bowl as a coach and a couple as a player as well. What is the preparation like? Is there a difference for a player and a coach? Is it more strenuous one way or the other? Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Well, the workload is definitely more strenuous as a coach. It's the preparation is, you're looking at 15 to, depending on the day of the week, it starts out Monday from probably 16 to 17 hour days, and it starts tapering off by Thursday or Friday to 8-9 hours a week. But it's a lot of film study, instilling plays that you feel that can be very successful for the team, the opponents you're playing. So I think as a player, you're studying film, you're watching, you're practicing, obviously, you're doing all the things you want to do to be successful, not just as an individual player, but also as a team. And but as coaches, you're putting together the game plan, and it's a lot more time consuming, and it's a lot more work. And I always said playing was easy. These coaches put you in a position to be successful, and you go out and execute and have fun. Where coaches, even at losses, man, you come in. That's the worst thing, coming in after a tough loss and evaluating film and tape, and where the players are home resting.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned 16 to 17-hour days. Did you ever get burned out?
No, because I loved it, but I do think it's way too much. At the end of the day, your playbook, you're sometimes game planning, you're putting 200, 250 plays in for a game when you're only going to run 60 to 70 plays a game, so you're not even going to use 60% of the plays you're installing. And to me, to be efficient, to perfect the plays that you want to use for that particular game, you're only going to get to practice so many plays. And that's the one downside I see. And I'm not saying all coaches do that, but we did that. And I just felt like, as a player, knowing what I knew as a player and being on the other side as a coach, I just felt like it was overkill. And it doesn't need to be 16, 17-hour days. A tired coach isn't a good coach. And it wears out. You start to wear down on you towards the end of the year. And it's tough. These coaches work hard, but I do think sometimes they need to work smarter rather than harder.
That makes a lot of sense. And so, like I said earlier, on the 2016 Panthers, you're on the coaching staff, and there was some injuries to that team and the receiving core especially. So we were just wondering, we're big Panthers fans here in North Carolina. How did you prepare the receiving core for that Super Bowl, knowing that, your top receiver during the regular season was out?
Well, for me, I think that was the advantage I had as a former player and playing 17 years. I got to play for some great coaches, some great players, and you learn a lot. You can't help but learn when you're around great players and great coaches. You can't help but learn. And when you have the opportunity to play 17 years, I felt like I learned a lot, not just as a technician and teaching them route running, but building confidence. And I think enough isn't done in building the mental side of it. And as a player, I wanted to encouragement. I think we all need that. I don't care if it's the NFL, if it's high school, if it's Pop Warner. We all need a pat on the back. We all know it's a tough game. It's a physical game, and you're going to drop balls. You're going to make mistakes, but it's how you learn from those mistakes and how you're coached up on those mistakes. And so for me, it was, just to give an example, Ted Ginn had come, and he was a 5th round pick overall from Ohio State, great talent, great speed. And it struggled here and there, bounced around in San Francisco and then Arizona. And for me, it was, man, he was an amazing athlete. And for me, it was about building confidence, working on some of the little details in his route running and building that confidence and catching the ball, doing drills, and just taking small steps at a time. And then it was Philly Brown, who was undrafted. It was Devin Funchess, who was a 2nd round pick, but a rookie. It was Brent Burson, another undrafted from Wofford, and just putting all those pieces together and just building that receiving core that I knew what their strengths were, and to put them in positions, whether it was Ted stretching the field, whether it was Philly Brown catching the underneath, utilizing speed, Devin Funchess using his 6'4", 230 frame to catch those slants, or big body guys on fade routes. They started to understand their role, and I started to try to put them in a position to where Coach Ewell and I would really communicate on putting them in certain situations to where they could have success and we could have success as a team. And I think that just started feeding as the season started going on, and we started having success, and we started plugging them in certain plays to where they could create opportunities and make big plays and chunk plays and red zone plays. And their confidence just started exploding. And then it took on a whole new life from there.
What's something people don't understand about Cam Newton?
He is one of the most unselfish team players that I've ever played with or had a chance to coach with. He gets he's very, he's got so much passion and love for the game and love for his teammates. I don't think, still to this day, I don't know if I've ever seen him talk about a teammate that dropped the ball or a lineman that didn't make a block when Cam got blindsided, or like I said, a drop, or maybe something that turned into an interception. He always assumed responsibility. All he cares, he doesn't care about his numbers. He doesn't care about how many touchdowns, how many yards he threw for, how many yards he rushed for. All he cared about is winning. And I think if there's one thing that you could say about Cam early on, was maybe he was immature, but love and passion for the game, for his teammates. I love the kid. He was fun to coach. He came to practice every day, working hard and giving his best, and positive attitude. And you look at New England last year, and Cam struggled, but they wanted Cam to be successful. You could hear by their comments, their press releases, from whether it was Bidwell, whether it was Josh, because he is such a positive role model in that locker room for the young guys, for the vets. He's fun to be around, and it's contagious. His attitude is contagious.
So obviously Cam's on the Patriots now, and they just recently drafted Mac Jones. Do you see him finding success with the Patriots, or do you think that success maybe comes at another stop down the line?
Like I said, Cam is a selfish player, and he loves to compete. He competes at everything, but I will say this, he's gonna, he will help Matt Jones in any way he can. But I think that's a tough question to answer. I think that competition is going to make Cam better, and he's got one thing in mind, and that's to lead the New England Patriots to the playoffs and then the Super Bowl. That's his goal. He's not trying to win 8 games or 9 games and be a winning quarterback and have a winning season. He wants to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah, and that's his goal. And I hope it's in New England. I really do. And but I know he's going to keep playing as long as he feels physically possible that he can play, whether it's in New England or whether it's somewhere else. He'll do that.
So you played and coached with Steve Smith. Give us your best Steve Smith story.
Oh God. Where do I start?
It can be uncensored. Anything goes.
Yeah. I think Steve Smith. What my biggest memory is when I knew it was my first year with him, and I think it may have been preseason when he was starting to come on or maybe it was second year. He was obviously coming on as a franchise receiver. His rookie year, the Super Bowl, or not his rookie year, but my first year with him, the Super Bowl, and what he accomplished as a receiver. And he was looked at as a special teams return guy only. So when second year, we started kind of phasing him out of special teams because he was too valuable to the team, and we didn't want to get him hurt. But a lot of times in crunch situations, he would say, "Hey, I'm gonna return a punt. I'm gonna return a kick to try to get us in good field position, especially if we needed it down the stretch of the game." And it was a tight game. And but we were in a preseason game, and he would watch punt returns, and he would see different things, that I don't see, even as a punt returner. He saw the whole field. He saw where seams were, how things were happening as they were unfolding, where a lot of people don't see it. And that's what made him special. So it was probably second half. He said, "Proehl, watch this. I'm gonna go take the next punt return. I'm gonna take it to the house. I see some things." And he sure enough, he caught the punt and took it 75 yards to the house for a touchdown. Now he got called back for a penalty, but it's little things like that Steve could will himself to do anything. He is pound for pound the best football player that I ever played with or ever got a chance to coach. to me, in my mind, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah.
He is an amazing player. For a guy his size, could play like he was 6'5", his vertical leap, he could go up and make acrobatic catches, go over the middle and take a hit and bounce right up. I mean, I look at, we were playing Chicago. In Chicago as a coach, he caught a dig route over the middle and the safety hit him so hard. They were in midair. Steve went 10 yards, 5 yards, maybe, probably 5 yards back towards the line of scrimmage, regained his balance, and then started running forward again, where the safety was on the ground. Just little things like that. He was just a beast, man. His arm strength, his hand strength. He could grab you by the wrist, and you could do whatever you want with both hands, and you weren't going to break free. I mean, he was unbelievable strength and power and speed. For a guy his size, he was absolutely amazing. In my mind, obviously, the best Panther to ever put on a uniform. Equally, probably right there with, I think maybe a slight edge because it's dirt, but with Luke Kuechly. I mean, Luke was unbelievable as well.
So speaking of Luke Kuechly, were you surprised by his early decision to retire, or did you kind of, I guess not see it coming, but like, did that catch you off guard completely?
It did. It did. And as a matter of fact, I called Luke personally and just said, Luke, why? And I know, just being around Luke, the 5 years I was around him, he's such a competitor. He takes pride in everything he does. And I think a lot of it had to do with that. And I don't know why they did it, but changing the defense to a 3-4, it put him in a bad situation where he was taking on linemen. And I think in his mind, he felt like he couldn't play at the level that he had played at for so many years. But it was the scheme. It wasn't his loss of physical ability, but I think it took a toll on him, and just having to run around, linemen pulling and linemen, getting in his face. And, 4-3, Starlet, just to tell you, 4-3, you got 4 down linemen. Well, they're 2 gap. They're holding up the linemen and letting Luke kind of freelance and run downhill to plays. And that was his strength, to read plays, as he knew what plays were coming before they actually snapped the ball. And I think, I don't know if the concussion had something to do with it, or concussions, and he just wanted to go out on top or go out on a note where he was still healthy. But physically, mentally, he could still play the game and play at a high level. And that day he retired, we all lost something. We lost watching a great player. He was amazing, in watching him and how he played the game, how he prepared during the week, his film study, and then his on-field preparation was bar none the best I've ever seen.
So you mentioned you have a great relationship with Cam and Steve Smith. Was that whole situation when Steve Smith left awkward for you?
Yeah, it's just, just to be honest and transparent, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And in Steve's defense, Steve is hardcore, man. I mean, he's honest to a fault, and he'll tell you, that he's made some mistakes and said some things and done some things he's not proud of, but that's what makes Steve Steve. And I think in his mind, Steve has worked his tail off to be the player that he became, and that he was future Hall of Famer. And I think it upset him sometimes that Cam comes in first round pick and he's the franchise. And I think, sometimes wasn't always the most accurate passer, didn't do everything, the way Steve wanted him to do.
Yeah.
Guys like Cam, I mean, have you ever been in the same room with Cam? Have you ever seen, the guy's a physical specimen. I mean, you look at him and it's almost, you think, how is this guy a quarterback? Like, I mean, he looks like he's as big, if not bigger, than some of the defensive ends that play the league. And he can run and throw, and he just had it all. And I think, there were times where Steve just got frustrated with Cam, and he just felt like he didn't earn that position to be the franchise quarterback or to be the voice of our Panthers at that time. And I think there was a lot of friction. not on Cam's side, on Steve's side. And if Steve was sitting next to me, I would tell him that.
Mhm.
And you know, it upset all of us, and it upset me because I love Steve. You know, he's a dear friend of mine, but sometimes he acted like an ass.
Yeah.
You know, and it was affecting the team, and it was time. Unfortunately, it was time to go in a different direction.
So the last question I had for you personally is on the topic of the Panthers still. Sam Darnold just came over to be our quarterback. You know, what do you think about the upcoming season? You think we'll, you know, be 500 team, or you think we'll be a couple years away from, you know, finding the playoffs again? What do you think?
No, I think Sam Darnold's going to surprise a lot of people. I think he's a great. He's got an opportunity to be a great football player. He just was in a bad situation where it wasn't a good situation, and you know, I think he's a very talented young quarterback that's got a bright future. You know, if they protect him, he's got some weapons. He's got one of the best, if not the best, running back, arguably top 3 in the league. That can take a lot of pressure off him if Christian stays healthy. He's got some good weapons at the receiver position. So I think you're going to see some things. I think he's going to pleasantly surprise the Carolina fans.
Good to hear. We're glad to hear that.
So I have 2 last questions. First off, you were on that 06 Colts Super Bowl team. You signed at the end of the year. What was it like being with Peyton Manning in practice?
Unbelievable. There's two. I've always said this, and it's probably Peyton probably has a slight edge. 17 years, the 2 smartest football players I ever played with was Peyton Manning and Marshall Faulk. Peyton was like a coach in the box, man. I'd put him up calling plays with the guy in the box. I mean, he could process information so fast, dissect the defense, you know, with his whole, you know, he revolutionized the game, which the whole clap Omaha, you know, just dummy call snap just to see what they were going to do, saw what they were going to do, and then boom, change the play, call the play, put Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Dallas, Clark, and those guys in a position to have success and to just, I mean, what did he win? 11 games for I don't know how many years in a row. I mean, the guy was truly and just a first class individual. I mean, a great team player, just a lot of fun to be around, and just it was unbelievable. I mean, one of the best 3 months of my life, just to watch him operate and dissect defenses was truly amazing.
So 10 years later, you faced him in the Super Bowl as a coach. What was kind of the game plan? You playing with him, you know, in 06 in that Super Bowl year, but then you faced him again as a coach. How'd you try to game plan for that? Obviously on the offensive side, but still.
Well, he was a mirror image. I mean, he wasn't even close.
Yeah.
I think I probably could have thrown the ball further than Peyton at that point. And I'll be honest, I think we made some mistakes as coaches. I think our defense was unbelievable, dominated. And I mean, I think if we don't have those 2, you know, strip fumbles in our own red zone, I think we win that game. I mean, I never thought for once that we were going to lose that game. We were a better football team.
Oh yeah.
They couldn't do anything offensively. We just put them in a short field within the 10-yard line, 15-yard line twice. And that killed us. That, you know, I think we should have, they had the best 2 defensive ends in football. And I think we should have ran it down their throat and wore them down and then tried to open it up with some passing. And, you know, when I become a head coach or offense coordinator, then I'll make those decisions. But I think, you know, that still leaves that game left a bitter taste in my mouth, because I think we were a better football team and we should have came out ahead in that Super Bowl.
So this was my last question. It transitions great. Did Kotchery catch the ball?
Yes. Absolutely.
Was it a weird feeling after that? You're like, oh crap, what's going on here?
Well, that's a big point. And, you know, that's the thing about football. I think it's why it's one of the greatest sports, is because every play matters, you know, every game matters. And obviously there's the pinnacle and that's the last game, but that's a huge momentum swing. We catch that ball. Now we're close to midfield, and we're driving, we're making some plays. And that was a huge stall, you know, on 3rd down. But I just couldn't understand why. You review it and you see it. You know, he got his hand under it. You saw his hand clearly under the ball, and it didn't move. So yeah, that was he definitely caught that football.
God, the replays of that. Oh man, we were going crazy. It's ridiculous.
It was.
So, Connor, you got anything else?
I think that's about it. Oh, actually, I did have one last thing. So your son Austin played at Carolina. I go to Carolina. So does that mean you're like a Tar Heel fan now?
Absolutely not.
It's not the answer I was wanting to hear.
You know what? No, I got Dre Bly coaches there now. He's a dear friend and he's a great football coach. And you know, I do. I mean, I root for Wake, ECU, and Carolina. And
Okay.
So not a state fan, right?
No, I'm not a state.
Thank God.
Nope, not a state or Duke fan. Sorry, but
It's fine.
yeah, I do root for Carolina. We you know, other than when they're playing Wake Forest. So
that's fair.
Yeah, there's some a little bit of blue blood in the family now.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Ricky, thanks again for your time. Make sure to go donate to the foundation and do whatever you can to help. And thanks again.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Y'all have a great day.